Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Jan Bednar. He is the founder and CEO of ShipMonk. Jan, how you doing today?
How's it going, Logan? I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome, man. Well, I am doing fantastic, and I am very excited to be chatting with you today. We're going to be talking about the growth of your company, ShipMonk, from 0 to 30 million, and 4 specific lessons learned in bootstrapping a company these days. Before we jump into your takeaways, Jan, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and what you guys at ShipMonk are up to these days.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So I moved here from the Czech Republic. I'm originally from Europe, from the Czech Republic, and I moved to the States when I was 17. And I always had this dream of starting a business. So, I first did kind of the traditional. I did 2 years of high school and then went to college and applied for a bunch of business plan competitions right before I was graduating, and somehow kind of made it through with my idea all the way to the top, which got me some funding to basically get started and free warehouse space. And the original idea actually in the beginning was more of a package forwarding business. So we were basically consolidating purchases for clients internationally here in the States and then shipping them overseas. Typically, like, people were buying products they just couldn't buy in their home country, or they wanted to save some money. So this was kind of like how I got my foot in the door with shipping and logistics. And, about 6 months later, after we started this business, and I was kind of doing it full time right after school, I saw, somebody approached us and said, "Hey, I see you guys have a warehouse. Why don't you store and ship our, products that we're selling online?" And so, we had an empty warehouse. So we're just like, sure, why not? Right. We'll give it a try. And so we started doing it. It was pretty, straightforward. We're just picking and packing orders as they sold them and then shipping them to their customers. And, I kind of soon started kind of really trying to understand, why did they go to us? Why didn't they go to any other company out there? And, just found this niche in the e-commerce fulfillment space for the small and medium-sized businesses that, it was just this whole new era of e-commerce companies starting. And there really wasn't like a winning provider. There wasn't anybody that was offering the right service and the right technology for people to really help them scale. And so we kind of got on that path of started building the technology, started really learning about, housing and shipping and logistics. And, just kind of fast forward to where we're today, it's, that's pretty much what we're doing. We're helping e-commerce company grow by basically offering seamless fulfillment through technology and automation. So, we work with over 1,000 different brands right now, ship close to 1 million orders a month among 2 different locations on the East Coast and West Coast. We're opening a third one here in the summer up in New Jersey. And it's been a wild ride, but it's been fun, and like you mentioned before, we bootstrapped all the way up to last November, which has been a kind of a wild ride, but it's I've learned a lot about myself and my employees and the company kind of through those years, because, obviously bootstrapping is not, the easiest way to grow the business, but I think it gives you a pretty good discipline.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about, four takeaways for folks that are either in the middle of building a business in this way. But you touched on something there, Jan, that I wanted to pause and camp out on for just a second. You mentioned it taught you a lot, not only about business, but about yourself. What do you think was the biggest takeaway that you learned and that people might need, that maybe you wished you had known about yourself or how to handle it just personally going through that season of growth that might be beneficial for listeners to hear about?
So I think the biggest lesson for me was, right at the beginning, especially when we were starting, because I didn't I had some savings from college, and I got about, I think it was about $50,000 from the school where I won the business plan competition, and I was part of this accelerator program. So I had about 50K cash basically to start the business, and my, and at that point it was kind of like if I hired an engineer for a couple months, like that would have been their whole salary. But at the same time, I had to, spend some money on marketing. I had to buy some equipment. Like it was a tough time at that time. And so what it really taught me was, that I got to be extremely smart with where I spend the money and where I can get the most bang for the buck, right? And a lot of people, like at the time, they would call me that I'm cheap, and it's kind of like it's definitely true, but at the same time, I didn't really have another option, like if I went out
Right.
and started spending a lot of money, like we probably would have not been here. And so it really taught me to be very cautious about, every single dollar that I spent. And I also had to see a return on every single dollar I spent, right? So every time, like before I bought anything, I asked myself, is this making my business bigger or better? And that's really what kind of like every single, and it's been, that needle has been moving as we grew and as we started making more money. But it's still like, I think it just taught me a good lesson of, just really thinking about every single thing you buy into the
Mhm.
company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think another thing that you and I were talking about a little bit offline that would be helpful for folks is along these same lines of thinking about your spend, specifically on product design. Tell us a little bit about the lessons learned there in the money, the time, and how you go about what you invest in product design, especially in the early days.
Yeah, so I think this becomes, kind of a tough thing for tech companies to, to start a business without external funding and kind of building a good product, without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and putting that into the product. And so, my story of actually how I did this was kind of kind of funny because I knew we needed some sort of a tech platform to be different than everybody else, right? So for the first couple of months, we kind of modified an existing solution that was out in the market, and we started using that, and we're using it for about 6 months. But I knew that's not the way to go. So what I did is I actually went back to my home country, and I was looking for a developer that I was basically, I could pay him with equity instead of just paying him with cash. So I went specifically to like one of the most prestigious universities, and I basically told them like, hey, I've got this 3 month unpaid internship in Florida where you're going to work, but you can also like you're going to be in Florida. It's going to be at the like you're going to be working from the beach. Like it's going to be this dream life. And so I was basically selling this dream. And I in that post that I did on their Facebook page, I put a bunch of girls in the bikinis, and I just like really made it where like kind of targeted that 23-year-old developer in Prague, just where they would be like, yeah, I really want to do this, right? And I got a great feedback. I got over 50 people that applied for the job and interviewed every single one of them, and then eventually kind of picked the right guy. And he's my CTO now, and he's doing really well. But it's a funny, it's just and I knew nothing about development, right? But that was kind of my way of thinking, is like, look, this guy's going to get a 3 month vacation. I'm going to pay for his, I put him in my apartment. I fed him, and it was kind of like it was like a partnership. It was just like a really, like a really cool, scrappy way to get somebody to build the minimal product. Because in the 3 months that he was here, he built the minimum product and something that we then, started showing to customers and really started realizing that this is something they really like.
Yeah, so get creative in how you can pay and feed your initial product development
Right.
team, how you can recruit them. Where you get very creative there, obviously, in the way that you put out that job posting, potentially offering equity to folks early on in the team can be attractive to get people who had the skills that you need. So I think there's several takeaways there, Jan, that you mentioned. And then you also touched on, getting the minimal product, getting that MVP and not getting it perfect. Do you see a lot of tech companies that struggle with that, especially founders that want to put something out into the market that's perfect, because you likely have this vision of the problem you can solve and how great the product can be, but that can kind of hinder you if you're waiting for perfect to put something out into the market, not only because it takes time, but it takes money that you especially don't have as a bootstrap company, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, the one thing to kind of keep in mind is that there is no such thing as a perfect product, right? Like there's always going to be some things that you can improve, some things that you're going to be working on. And I think that's just the one thing that founders have to get in peace with, is just like, it's never going to be perfect. And so there's absolutely no reason to wait for, all these extra features that you want to put into the app or service or, whatever you're building. And so it's just kind of a good idea. It's like, okay, what's the very minimal, product that we can get away with, that our customer can use, and we can kind of verify our concept on? Because the worst thing you can do is spend, 2 years of your life trying to build a product that you're not even having anybody use or give you feedback on. And then, 2 years later, you have this amazing product that you think is amazing. You have, you've put $100,000 or $200,000 into it. You try to give it to users and nobody's using it, right? And now you have to redo it. And so I'm a firm believer in building like more of the concept product, and even at that stage, definitely talk to your customers and try to figure out what is it that they really want from the product and how are they using it, and then kind of tweak it from there, right? So don't try to get it perfect, because you never will.
Hey guys, chances are you're running SEO, PPC, social, email, and other digital channels. So why aren't we spending the same time and attention on our highest converting channel, referrals? We all say we value word of mouth because we know it brings our best leads that end up being our best customers. But most of us aren't using referrals as an active marketing channel. Enter the definitive guide to referral marketing from our friends over at Ambassador. To get your free copy, head over to getambassador.com/growth. You'll learn best practices, tips, and strategies to generate positive and organic word of mouth by building your own scalable referral program. Learn from the world's leading referral company, Ambassador, trusted by leading marketers at HubSpot, Zillow, and Gong.io to build and scale their word of mouth programs. Again, go get your free copy of the definitive guide to referral marketing at getambassador.com/growth. And if you want to talk to their experts there, just drop them a note. All right, let's get back into the show.
Yeah. I can't remember where I read it or heard it here recently, but someone was talking about Amazon, Google, these tech giants. How often, Apple, how often are they pushing out updates, bug fixes to their OS or to different products? So if they still haven't gotten a perfect product, then don't fool yourself. You're not going to get a perfect product, especially in the early days, or even once you get to kind of, in the flow. I was reading or listening to the Craig Groeschel leadership podcast, and he was talking about these different stages of company growth, especially in startup. And he refers to this, I think it's the third stage in the way that he broke it down. And he talks about being in the flow. And I feel like from what you shared, Jan, that's kind of where you guys are now. And what you mentioned offline before we hit record was what you guys are doing now at this stage to continue to develop the product, to continue to enhance customer experience, is really building your brand into every touch point of the customer experience. Can you tell us a little bit about, what you guys are seeing there, some of the things that you're doing once you get to this, at least what I've heard other people call in the flow stage?
Right. So I think, the one important thing with the way we look at our product and our brand is, we try to figure out who our users are and what does our brand mean to them, right? So we have certain set of values that are associated with our brand, and it's not just a bunch of text that we put on a whiteboard 3 years ago and we never looked at it. We have them kind of everywhere. Everybody knows them, and it's these, they basically become the pillars of the organization, something that everybody looks up to, and it almost, if you know what they are, everything you do in the company drives you towards, the vision and the mission of the brand and the company itself. So, I think it's really important. I mean, this is something that we've kind of learned in the last few months or years, is that, once you kind of communicate those values and what the brand really means to your employees and to your customers, it kind of does the job itself almost, right? Like, you don't really have to spend a lot of time maintaining it or trying to have seminars and teach people, like, what does the brand mean? It's almost like everything you do at that point is the brand, right? And so, it's how you answer the phone. It's how you decorate your office. It's how you, go to work. It's what you wear to work, right? Like, every single detail, as long as you kind of have those values in the back of your mind and you know what the brand really means, it's almost like a self-sustaining organism at that point. And that's kind of, and that's been really important for us because, we really see it among our customers, which is kind of the most rewarding thing, where once they like our brand and they kind of see what we're doing, it's, they become part of it. And they love coming to our office. They love kind of sharing their thoughts on improving the product. And it becomes, this one big ShipMonk family in a way. And everything we do from a branding and marketing standpoint just surrounds those values and the proposition of the brand.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that incorporation of the brand in every element of what you do, customer facing, internally. There's really no hiding your culture, what you're doing from anyone these days, as we all have, access to what's going on and how people are interacting with your brand. So I think that's a phenomenal way to think about it. And I think that's going to be key to the ongoing growth that you guys have obviously already sustained and looking to continue, Jan. So I appreciate you sharing these lessons learned. To recap for folks a little bit, we talked about, especially in the early days, spending money very, very wisely, almost to the point where your friends are probably going to call you cheap. Don't try and build the perfect product from day one. Get creative about building the team. You had a phenomenal example about bringing on a developer early on to your team. And then once you get into the flow, looking at kind of scrutinizing every step in the customer experience and how does that reflect the brand and how can you enhance that brand experience on every customer touch point. So I think these have been great things to share with listeners today, Jan. Obviously, you've experienced some great success. So if anybody listening to this would like to stay connected with you, follow you, or reach out and ask any questions, what's the best way for them to find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Jan Bednar, Bednar. Also on Instagram, Jan_and_ShipMonk. And, obviously, if you guys are interested in our company, it's www.shipmonk.com. And my email is jan@shipmonk.com. If you want to shoot me an email for any questions or suggestions, we're always happy to help.
I love it. Well, Jan, thank you so much for spending some time today. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Logan. It's been a pleasure.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. All those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins.
Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.